Alrighty, we are beginning the stream. For anybody who's tuning in during the replay, as always, I humbly request that you consider liking and subscribing, especially if you want to see more. And they usually say hit that bell. There we go. Well, today, as indicated in the title, we are gonna do a repair on a Game Boy Color. Now, interestingly, not interestingly, but I do have a picture of me holding a vintage camera in the thumbnail image, and that's because, well, it was the image I had available, and I didn't really want to spend time doing a thumbnail image right now, even though it's really just a matter of getting a picture of a Game Boy. But we got the Game Boy here, and we need to crack it open, which is pretty trivial. This is my Game Boy Color. And I got some Panasonic Eneloop rechargeable batteries here, which are great. Panasonic Eneloop, Eneloop. And, I don't know, if that's being pronounced the right way, but, they are quality rechargeable batteries, and they cost enough to prove it. But let's take a look here. So we're going to do a little rotation here. And so, yeah, those are the batteries I use. They usually come in white, but I also, buy these ones in black. The black ones are, labeled Eneloop Pro, whereas the white ones just say Eneloop. And basically, I believe they're made by Panasonic, but they sometimes go under, or they've been known to be sold under the Sanyo brand. But this clearly says Panasonic Corporation. And maybe you'll see Master Shita on here somewhere, but no. And the most important thing or distinction between the white ones and the black ones and a Loop Pro is that these have a higher capacity, a minimum rated capacity of 2450 milliamp hours. And I think the other ones are like, I don't know, less. Well, they're less. I mean, in fact, this is pretty high capacity compared to other ones. For instance, hey Google, what is the battery capacity of a rechargeable AA? Supposedly, a normal nickel metal hydride battery is only 1100 milliamp hours, which I'm suspecting that Google, the little, speaker that I just verbally asked to tell me a question and answer to. Okay, I said that backwards. I believe she was giving me the rating of AAA batteries. Let's see here. Son of a runt. So, interesting thing here. So, sometimes, for one reason or another, OBS likes to switch my monitors around. Or not so much OBS, it might be a Windows thing, but this is something that it doesn't hurt to check prior to a stream if OBS has your monitors right, because otherwise, and this is sort of like, consider this a lesson of sorts. If I go here, I'm currently selecting my, how do we do this? Yeah, well, that's interesting. Okay, where's the Dell? Yeah. Okay, then we gotta do transition. Oh, wow, it's really mixed up all my monitors. All right, so I can't even do a real demonstration here. Okay, so that's my OBS window, right? And, we're running off 3 monitors, and for one reason or another, it got mixed up. It mixed up the monitor designation. So I'm going to really quickly go to properties here, and if this is my Dell display, this should be the, monitor number 1. Yeah, annoyingly, it designates my, non-primary monitor as number 1, but I'm able to tell Windows that it is not. So if you ever, want to see how this works, you would go to let's see if it's got the right desktop. First we got to make sure. So now I got to go here, and can I show you now? Yeah, I should be able to go back to monitor 3. Okay, same thing. I go down here. I'm gonna switch to this scene in a moment, but before I do, I need to change the monitor. So I'm going to right click on my ultra wide monitor and I'm going to tell it, no, it is actually this one here. And it even says in parentheses, primary monitor. Now what's really cool is I put that monitor inside groups. And so when I press the button on my Stream Deck to adjust what part of the ultra wide monitor we're looking at, I have actually 3 different copies of that monitor, but really they're all references to the same monitor, and the only difference is the group they reside in. And so if I change a setting on this one monitor, it affects every other reference because they're all referencing the original. So you don't have to go and change the settings for each one, which is wonderful. And so now I should be able to like turn off studio mode, because generally I like to be able to go and press the button. That's my, right side monitor. Press another button, show you my main monitor. And then usually, so far, I decided not to include my top monitor as a display I share. I figure like it's like a safe space. I could do things. I could put things on that screen that I don't have to worry about being seen by accident. So if I'm having a private chat conversation or something like that, it can be done up there. Maybe, maybe not. So far so good. But anyway, now we're back to my main MSI monitor. So what I'm able to do is press the button to show you this, press the button to show you the left or the right, because an ultra wide monitor, of course, is going to be wider than your normal 16:9 aspect ratio. So anybody with a normal screen isn't going to be able to fit all of this on their screen. I could stream it at widescreen if I wanted to, but the cool thing is, I have this little margin area on the bottom. So I kind of like being able to do this, even though now we're technically downscaling the image a little bit, but it works. I can do this, and then I can go and give you a close-up if I need to. So yeah, so anyway, not sure why OBS changed that or why Windows changed that. But the other thing I would want to demonstrate is if you go to, display settings in Windows 10 or Windows 11 probably too, and Windows 7, it's all the same. You click identify and it'll show you like, what each monitor is. So in this case, when I press identify, it shows a number 2 on this screen. But even though that is number 2, I've hit this checkbox to make it my primary. So you usually have to hit the checkbox and click apply. Whereas this one here on, number 1 is actually my secondary. And same thing, if I go to that monitor and I click identify over here, we get a number 1, and then my top screen says number 3. And no matter what I've done, I haven't, I switched the HDMI cables around, and it always wants to recognize the right monitor as number 1. And that may be because I'm using a DisplayPort connection and HDMI over here. And yeah, I wanted to use DisplayPort, but at this point with the newest revisions of HDMI, they are on par. There's no real advantage to DisplayPort at this point in time for what I'm doing. And on top of that, whenever you turn off a DisplayPort monitor, at least in my experience, Windows treats it like you just disconnected that monitor. So if it goes into sleep mode or something like that, it can get really frustrating. Because let's say I have a bunch of windows on this screen, and I have a bunch of stuff on my right screen, like this notepad file. And let's say I have everything like, I have a window here, I have a window here, I have one here. Well, whenever Windows disconnects a monitor, just, because DisplayPort, for whatever reason, like whenever you turn off a monitor, it treats it like it's gone. Anything that was on that monitor is going to get shuffled to whatever monitor remains. And of course, you might wake up from sleep mode even, or just shake your mouse when the monitor is going to standby, and everything that was, neatly put on separate monitors will be clumped up on one screen. And it is quite frustrating. It's somewhat frustrating, and I've investigated it thoroughly. And the practical solution was just plug my primary monitor into an HDMI port. Now, before I do go to the feature presentation, I must check on my astrophotography rig because, I have a telescope in the backyard and there's a clear sky. And there is a comet in the news that I would like to see what's up with, just go and kind of like whoops, experience that. Now, last night when I left off, I did a large file transfer, and so at this point, this folder is all that remains. I moved everything from like 2022 that was not moved to my server from my laptop to my server, which I should have done sooner. And then I didn't have a whole lot of stuff from this yet. In fact, apparently, yesterday was the first time I've used this telescope in all of 2023. Whereas in 2022, I was using it up until like I think the day after Christmas or something like that. Interesting. It's not really sorting it the way I like it. Yeah. Wait. So of course, the date modified is using, I think, the date I transferred the data, which is interesting because I thought I went out of my way to prevent the date from being changed. Oh wait, I remember what happened. Yes, it happened on a for another reason. But yeah, I would like these dates to match, but no big deal. The folders, the directories have the right date. When you go inside of a directory, the actual files do have the correct date since they were created and they haven't been modified since the date they were created. But it is a little weird to have that incongruency between the folder. Like it's, not a big deal, it's just a minor, nuisance. But bottom line is any new data we gathered today will go into this directory, and then at my next convenience, I can go ahead and, transfer it to my server once again. And do I have bookmarks? I should make a bookmark. Not that I've ever used bookmarks on this application, but might be nice. Whoa. Okay, good. What I was trying to do is copy and paste. Yeah, there we go. Okay, that is a bookmark, and actually, I want to have 2023. So if we go back. We want to bookmark this. Okay, good. And hopefully now, how do I get back to bookmarks? Apparently, I just double click on the bar next time I connect because I want to close this to free up resources. And then we're going to unpark the telescope. We're going to go back to Sharp Cap. I usually, if I don't, cover the camera and I want to leave it on, I'll tell it to take one picture every 8 seconds. It doesn't actually save it, but that's because otherwise I have no idea what temperature is being maintained by the Peltier cooler, the tech cooler, because there's a cooling unit to keep the image sensor cool. And so we have it set to -20, which I believe is about -4 or -7 Fahrenheit. And yesterday it needed very little power. This is like a scale of 0 to 255, and it was like on a 2. It only needs like that little electricity to maintain that, -20 or -7 temperatures on the image sensor. But anyway, this is just a side thing because, of course, we are here to do a Game Boy. That doesn't sound right. Hey, what up, Simple Jack? Good to see you. Yeah, so we're just going to take a look at the moon and the comet real quick, and then we're going to tear down a Game Boy Color. As you can see, I have a Game Boy Color on my desk, and, I'm going to get it nice and close in a little while. But basically, we pulled the batteries out. I'm using these nice Panasonic rechargeables, and we're going to just replace the speaker. And let's talk about that real quick so that we have a taste of what we're doing here today. So I went to the retro computer or retro game repair shop, and, that's like everything they sell you comes with this sticker on it. Like I bought the Ultra HDMI for my N64. And even that came in a box that has this sticker. Now, I mean, it's a beautiful box, and for a $300 device that I bought in order to add HDMI ports, an HDMI port to my N64, I'm glad it was well protected in shipping. But it is interesting. They provide, you don't need to store your N64's HDMI modification, hardware. You don't need to store that in a box if it's already installed in your N64. So I thought this was a little overkill. I'm supposed to maybe put this nice sticker on something, but I'm not one for brand flair. But maybe I'll put it on something. Maybe I'll, it's like I don't know where to put it really, but at some point I'll put it on something. I don't want to put any new stickers on my laptop because at some point I'm gonna get a new one, and you know I I'm fed up with that laptop. I use it; it's all right in some ways, and in other ways it pisses me off. But anyway, yeah. So that's the box, and I guess I can use it as like a little Pelican case for other things. What's interesting about this case is, does it have a gasket? Nah, it doesn't have a gasket, but it has a sort of like little lip on the side, a seal. So yeah, I mean, like, nice box. I could repurpose it, I'm sure. And then in here is a speaker. No, this is a battery, actually. This is a battery for my Game Boy Micro. That one I got to do later, but that should be really trivial. I mean, it's a battery pack. So I'll plug it in, plug my Game Boy Micro into a battery charger, and we're good to go. I also bought this Game Boy Mini Pocket, and it basically works, but when you turn it on, you get some lines on the screen. So I'm thinking that either the flex cable needs to be reconnected, or maybe there's some crack or damage to the edge of the display. But I plan to inspect it, and then based on my inspection, if I can't fix it easily enough, or if it's irreparable without any additional parts, then I'll probably upgrade it, because they do sell a whatchamacallit, an IPS display upgrade for this, where you could literally put an IPS. Now, an IPS display, like on a phone, it's not going to be color. It's going to be a black and white or monotone display. I think like 4 shades of gray. But still, that's kind of cool, I mean, it'll be a nicely backlit display, because there is a Game Boy Light, which is not much bigger than this, and it's smaller than a Game Boy Color. And it has an illuminated display, a black and white illuminated display. And it didn't really, get, far. It wasn't super popular, but it's an interesting alternative to a color Game Boy, and both of these suffer from the hard to see display. Not impossible, but a little, obviously can't play it in bed at night with the lights out. Now let me just get my screwdriver set, my Nintendo tool set. Where in the world is Where in the world is Carmen Sandiego? But also we have a new, lens, or, whatchamacallit, LCD screen protector in here. So this, I believe, is supposed to replace the plastic that goes on the screen. And that one, I don't know if I'm going to replace that right here, right now, because it's occurring to me right now that it may require some heat to do that. And this is real cool. This is just a USB power cable, and it's technically for use when you're doing repairs. So the idea is you open up a Game Boy, and the problem is that you can't really put a battery in without the back of the chassis or the housing. And so what you could do is you could plug the motherboard into this power source and test it out, because it's really annoying to reassemble something and then find out that you have to open it up again. It's not as bad as being a surgeon. It would suck if you did an operation on a patient and had to like reassemble, disassemble the body twice in order to, finish surgical operations. But yeah. Now, I may have the screwdriver in my desk drawer. Looks like I do, because it's certainly not here. Okay, that's a 4-bladed Phillips head. And I most certainly do possess a 3-bladed Game Boy screwdriver. But if I don't find it, I will improvise, because when working on a Game Boy, it is entirely possible to use a standard flathead screwdriver, a jeweler's screwdriver, I should say. So, it's got to be small, but it will fit. And, I've done it dozens of times, Back when I was a youth, when I was younger, when I was a kid, yeah, I mean, I didn't want to buy a specialized tool set every time I wanted to take apart a Nintendo. And so I usually improvised, although I found that when I wanted to take apart my Virtual Boy, there wasn't really any practical way to improvise on that project. Um, it was like just, you know, when you're dealing with those bolts, those Nintendo bolt drivers, you're not gonna improvise with that too easily. But yeah, I mean, a slotted screwdriver or something of that type, I mean, sure, you can totally improvise on something like that. And now I just gotta get everything to fit back inside my desk. Ugh. Gotta clean this one of these days. See, I have a Nintendo bolt driver. This is what I would have needed when I was a child to take apart my Virtual Boy. Yeah, so, okay, so whatever. We don't know where that is right now. It could be in a different drawer. I mean, for all I know, the screwdriver I'm looking for could be just floating around right under my nose, and I could be missing it, but that's okay. We can work around it. It's bizarre, though. I mean, that is not something I would think would be easily misplaced unless I brought it to another room, and, yeah, well, okay, anyway. Let's see how far we can get without the correct tool. And that actually might be proving trickier already. You know, you really can't put a 4-bladed slotted screwdriver into a 3-bladed slot. You know, I mean, that's not gonna fit. A flathead driver will have a better chance. I mean, like I said, it's been done before. It's just you're not gonna be able to get the level of torque or torsion that you normally would. But with that, let's just close this box up as soon as I get everything to fit. And we're going to really quickly set up the telescope. Here's the speaker I was talking about. So, you know, what happens is when I play the games on here, the speaker just, for years, it would make an ugly sound, make like a buzzing sound. It wouldn't really just work right. And so it looks like there's actually a wire harness on here too, like a little white connector. And so I may be able to, you know, just plug and play. I'm kind of surprised if that's the case, but that supposedly appears to be the case. Okay, so now we're connected. We're going to go and open up there we go. I'm connected to my mount. We're going to connect this Stellarium. We're opening Stellarium now. Now, Stellarium is a popular star map application. And with this plugin, you can link to a telescope directly. Like, you know, you can control the mount. And so that's what we're doing here. We're gonna, you know, just pick a target. Now, although the moon isn't bright and it's crystal clear, and I may just take advantage of looking at the moon, Jupiter is looking like it's beginning to set, so we may pick that target early. The only issue of Jupiter is, well, let's see here. Oh, Vesta. Isn't Vesta like a popular comet too? Probably way out there though, but let's see if we can, what is it? Oh no, Vesta is a, just an asteroid, yeah. Okay, so anyway. If I point here, I know my mount is going to be way off. My mount is going to be a little off if I could realign it. So if we look at Jupiter, we're going to see the moons in this sort of alignment here. 1, 2, 3, 4. You know, you got Europa, Ganymede, Callisto, and Io. And these are the 4 largest moons. They're the most easily seen with the, you know, with minimal magnification, believe it or not. Like, you'd be surprised. You got a camcorder, you could probably see those moons. But what we need to look at is our comet. And, you know, the night is so clear, I'm almost tempted to just say, screw the comet. I mean, let's get a nebula right here. Like, that looks cool, right? I mean, you know, whatever nebula that is. And so we got 2 ways to look at this sky. And just in case you want to know, that is NGC 7822. Ah, yeah, good old NGC 7822. Ah, yeah, we all, you know about that one. Yep. Or the swimming alligator cluster. Some of the names are more fun. It doesn't look like much, but if that's an alligator, yeah, I'll take it. It's an alligator. And that's how big it would look on my camera. So, you know, not really worth the time and effort to capture this guy here, although star clusters are generally easier to work on. And then this one doesn't even have a label on it, like, but it's clearly there. I mean, this might be a cool target. I might bookmark it, you know. And so one important thing I have to do is go into these settings sometimes and tell it, show me more. And hopefully like that bar, it still didn't add a label to this. So it's like, you know, because like if I zoom out, you'll see way more. Let me see. So we're going to zoom out and we're going to go. Okay, let me see. Yeah, there we go. So I jacked this up and you can see like more crap all over the place. So deep sky objects and galaxies and nebulae, you know, don't show up unless I, you know, raise this. And hey, what up, Whooper Trooper? Good to see you. And so the idea is, you know, we crank it up to see more stuff, but we don't want to, you know, have it so crowded that we can't find anything. Generally speaking, if you were doing visual astronomy through an eyepiece, you might even tell it to limit the magnitude so that it would only show you stars that you have a chance of visually seeing. But with a digital camera, you know, of some sort, we can, you know, do a little bit more to get, you know, the objects to reveal themselves. Electronically aided astronomy. Yeah, we also had a Simple Jack live in here moments ago. You know, he does some, you know, gaming streams, just as Whooper Trooper does some gaming streams as well, and did a really cool video reviewing, you know, the lunacy of the social media biases, something like that. You know, it's like people were moaning about something in the news. I think the news media, what, they didn't know the difference between one type of game and another. Ah, there you go, Simple Jack. I didn't even know if you were still there. Is that a cat in a box? That's funny. You know, emojis are cool sometimes where like they don't always look the same. And I'm hoping I have all the right checkboxes because like I say, I don't want to have it show me too much crap, but I want to see things, you know, I want to be able to find things. And what's this? Filter by type. How does that work? Okay, well, it's not filtering anything when I click on that box, so we're going to leave it alone. Anyway, so we got the Elephant Trunks Nebula. Does it look like an elephant trunk? A little bit, I guess. You know. And if I do C/2022, now we're looking at the comet. And it's not much, but, you know, it's a comet. It's got a nucleus, which is the core or whatever. And you got the little, you know, tail or pretty wide tail on that one. And it's in my northern sky. And so, actually, no, it's actually moving on up there. Look at that. And so, that's another thing. The nature of a comet is going to keep moving. So this is the northern sky. And I think on a night-to-night basis, it's just gradually moving away from that central circle where the North Star is. So this would be like a 42-degree angle. If I'm like looking up and I put my hand up, that would be a 42-degree angle or about 40-degree angle here. And this is like nearly overhead now. And so if we were to like track this guy on a, you know, on a multi-night basis, you would start seeing this drift rapidly. And I find that it's a little easier to do that in the web version of Stellarium, because in the web browser, you can tell it to skip ahead one day at a time and keep the hours the same. Whereas in this version, you have to hit fast forward. And, you know, it's like it gives you an idea, because one useful thing here is when I do fast forward here, you're going to see that this object is moving independently of the objects in the background. And so this is why when I'm looking at this target, I have to use a guiding feature that locks onto the bright spot. Yep. It's funny when they talk about things in the news, they don't know what they're talking about. So anyway, I like to break out of full screen mode so it's a little easier to transition around, especially when you're outside in the cold. And basically, we're going to crank up the exposure time by a lot. I usually like to set the gain to 1700, but what I do is when I'm acquiring targets, I'll crank it up a bit higher. The gain setting is sort of like the ISO setting on a digital camera. And right now we're doing about 1 second exposures. Whoops. And my keyboard's in a really awkward spot right now, just FYI. Oh god, see, I'm hitting all kinds of stuff like T2A, Control A, C, turn off caps lock, and then we can go back here and say, oh yeah, okay, it's gonna make me nuts. Come on. And so it's interesting, this version of the camera application I'm using is mostly good, but when you go to type in that field, it likes to like lag like crazy. So I tried the new version, it was really good, but it has some major bugs. It could be my computer, but until I have time to do a proper, overhaul, we're not really going to make a big deal about it. So right now, what does it see? Not much. Maybe there's a lot of haze in the atmosphere. Maybe I'm out of focus. And I keep hitting that button. So we're going to go back here. I'm going to tell it aim at the target. In fact, before I aim at this target, I should be aiming at the moon. But you know what? It's okay, because what's going to happen is the reticle, the target HUD, as we call it, is zipping by, homing in on the target we selected. But I guarantee you that it is not going to be on the right target. And so we're going to fix that. We're going to fix that by, see, now we see a couple of stars in there. Maybe we'll do like a 4-second exposure. Don't have to be too picky here. And actually, I should once again give it a different name. Maybe see, I have this file naming designation where I'll put like the letters SLV at the end of a file name. So when I'm taking pictures of an object at the beginning, it takes, you got to make some, you got to basically like use a feature to align the scope. So what we do is we take a picture or a couple of pictures of this constellation we're looking at here. In fact, there's the comet. It's right there on the bottom, that little fuzzy thing. And we're going to take a couple of pictures at this exposure time. Then I'm going to do maybe a couple more at a longer exposure time to ensure I can see something. In fact, we're going to do it at 15 seconds because I don't trust technology. Okay, so give it a couple of seconds. And then I could do everything in one application, but because it took me a while to get it to work right and learning how to use this feature and getting it to work right took a while. So I do it in a separate application in order to basically rule out the causes of random issues. And at this point, it's running so well, I can actually, use, the all-in-one feature. Basically what it does is, this application, I supply a picture to this application, and it looks at the pattern of the stars, it looks at the constellations, and it compares it to a star map. And then it'll, tell me if I'm looking at the right object or not, and it'll realign the telescope. It'll synchronize. So we're going to do that right now. So it takes about a minute for that part to process. And then what usually happens is the numbers that come up over here will be a little bit different than numbers we see over here, because right now this is where the telescope thinks it's looking. It thinks that this object is in the center of my frame, but it's not. And when I synchronize, it's over here, not here. This red rectangle represents my image sensor square. And so this reticle is going to move over to, account for that change once the plate solving updates. So we'll give that a moment. In the meantime, I'm going to look for a tool for my Game Boy. Now, I'm hoping that, yes, good, I got it. Okay, so I bought this set of batteries for my Game Boy, and oh, that's weird. I did not expect a window to be up on the screen like that. It's kind of cool, but oh yeah, it's from a while ago. I'm gonna like keep that available. I'm gonna turn it off for now, but I'm gonna keep that feature available. I mean, that'd be good to have, I guess. So anyway, bought these, so I can replace batteries on Game Boy cartridges, and that part's trivial enough. But I wanted to do a video about repairing a water damaged cartridge, but I don't want to make it too complex. It's not a fully water damaged cartridge. It's only partly the contacts are messed up. So I tried using conductive ink to, scribe on some like new, conductive, material on those, on the edge of the cartridge. And, well, it didn't fully quite work. Like, I have a Pokemon Red game. It loads up properly, but the save games keep getting lost. And I even changed the battery, but I think it has something to do with the contacts being messed up. So I'm thinking that if I could fix the contacts, in fact, I have another idea that would probably be better than using the electrically conductive pen. It would just be a matter of dabbing some soldering lead onto those contacts. That would probably be the smart thing to do. Might do that next, but that's a little bit hard. That's more irreversible. So bottom line, I'm going to click yes. And when I click yes, these numbers are going to change. Because you can see right here, right ascension, RA is 151709. But over here it says 51345. I'm sorry, it just changed out of nowhere. Did it just do a meridian flip? Anyway, 51709 versus 51345. And when I click yes, that change is going to be done. And now what you'll notice is that the reticle is not on top of the comet anymore. So we're going to tell it reacquire target. And this time, because there's not much for it to mess up on, it's so close to the target, this time it will be in the center of the frame. And what we're doing is we're only doing a 15-second exposure. The next frame is going to have some motion blur in there. And then we may or may not stretch the histogram. The histogram is this graph on the bottom right corner where I'm blocking it with my head right now. So right behind where I'm sitting, there's this graph. So bottom right corner. And what we do is we usually click on the lightning bolt. In fact, you can see like little streaking here because the star moved. This is what it looks like, without stretching the histogram. And we'll wait like 7 seconds for a new frame to come up. And essentially what this is saying is that on the left side, this means that the majority of the pixels in this frame are dark. And if it was a white picture, then the graph would show more pixels on the right. And, if it was a normal picture, there should be some balance, And so now we're going to say hit the lightning bolt. And so that's from the mount moving. And then now that's what we have when we stretch it. So what it basically did was it said, show me what little pixels you do have and just brighten them up, basically. Sort of like, it's almost like giving it less dynamic range or something like that, but being selective about what it shows you. And there's different ways to manipulate that, but what we want to do is, oh, you know what? My mistake. We're using a freaking oxygen filter here. We need to go to like red, green, or blue. Now, I took a lot of pictures in red and green yesterday. I could still take more pictures in red, but I do need to get some stuff in blue. Now, the way the moon is moving about, I may want to reconsider what I'm doing because, like, this moon, where's the moon? Oh, there it is. Okay, it's not that close, but okay, so the moon's not going to really move closer to the comet, so that's good. But the moon is going to be a massive source of light pollution that will wash out the background. Hey, what's up, Fantastic Fun Federation Ferengi Fantasy February? How you doing? It's good to see you. I'm doing well. And, I'm supposed to be taking apart a Game Boy, but before I do, I figured I'd show you all the comet that has been in the news. And it peaked 2 days ago, but, it's still around. And holy cow. So I just switched to the clear filter, and I think it's just either this, oh yeah, there's clouds. So what's really cool about using these narrow band filters, so these are like basically we use a black and white camera, and this just lets in every color, and it doesn't really block a lot of light. Red, green, and blue, on the other hand, it's literally a red filter, and what you do is you take a black and white picture with a red filter, but then later on you convert it to basically shades of red. So instead of being black and white, it'll be a black and red picture, and you can do black and red, black and green, and black and blue. And then you take 3 pictures and you combine them together, and you get actual color. You get like true color. And that's how a lot of telescopes work, because otherwise you would be wasting a lot of pixels. It would be less efficient for the image sensor. And where am I? I'm supposed to be on screen. There I am. Okay. So yeah, basically like a little hard to illustrate with the cloudiness right now, but I will try. Oh yeah, so there's some clouds. And if we go to yeah, you can see every time it updates the frame, you're going to see the cloud formation change. We can actually illustrate that by playing it back at a a higher frame rate. There we go. So that's 1 second exposures, and I'm gonna crank it down to like a quarter second so you get like a better read of what's going on there. Might have to like, yeah, there it is. So see, that looks like clouds, right? Those are clouds, and it's a running joke. If you ever buy a new telescope, the bigger the aperture on that telescope, the better the telescope you have, the more weeks of clouds you can expect after buying that telescope before you can utilize it. So we can see a couple of points of light here. And it's a good thing we did the plate solving when we did, because we're not going to get a chance at doing it now. But really cool thing is that we have these filters. So red, green, and blue are literally the same red, green, and blue that we see with the human eye. But when we switch to hydrogen alpha, sulfur, or O3, we get a little bit of a different setup. So I think we're going to have to show band filter spec. And this will illustrate, I think we'll do a decent job of illustrating. So basically, these bumps here, red, green, and blue, just like this smaller picture here, represent what we see with the human eye. And so everything we see is literally like, it's on the EM spectrum. So if you ever take like a piece of glass, like a prism, triangular piece of glass, you put it under the sun and you get that little rainbow color, that's what you're seeing. And you can actually put like a ruler under it that measures nanometers, or be a little scaled up. And that's what these do. They these spectral graphs are showing you the electromagnetic spectrum, and it's just like an AM/FM dial on an old car. As insane as that might sound, it is just like the AM/FM dial on an old car. Except, oh, that's a awkwardly sized picture, isn't it? Oh, there it is. Except that essentially you're not seeing, I think on one side of this, you're going to have like, to the left of blue, you're going to have ultraviolet. So it'll be like that deep purple, and all of that will be to the left. It'll be like a lower frequency will be ultraviolet, I believe. Which doesn't make sense exactly, but okay. And then on the far right is infrared. And I'm thinking I'm actually getting it opposite. I'm sorry. These are high frequencies to the left, if I'm remembering right. And then to the right is lower frequencies. So infrared, lower frequency. And if we want to get a better idea, we can do like EM spectrum in its entirety. And this should give us a good idea. So exactly. So one of these represented. The only thing I don't like about these are they're giving us like numbers like 10 to the -6. It's like, I don't care about that. I want nanometers, because I can think in nanometers. I can't really think in like powers. I know they're important to science and all, but it's like, for what I'm trying to illustrate right now, this doesn't help. It helps a little bit, but bottom line is that, oh, this is actually almost perfect. So we're going to set that aside. We'll keep that handy. I should give credit where it's due, so I'll keep that link opened. And what else? So now, real quick, I want to get something that has nanometers. And you can see like the little waves showing how you got short wavelengths. That's the high frequency. You got the long wavelengths. Now, a lot of these will show red on the left instead of on the right. And, a lot of astronomy visual, we're always looking at it like this. I mean, I don't know if there's actually a rule, but I think it's really just a matter of the blue are the lower frequencies. So that's how we represent it. But a lot of times this graph will be backwards. So if we do like, this company here makes the filters that I bought. And on the packaging for their filters, they will, as soon as their page loads, show this. And they show 300 nanometers is blue and purple, 400, 500, 600, and all of the products. So this one here is a hydrogen alpha filter. So a red filter would represent a larger chunk of the EM spectrum, which show, that's our red right there. But what this filter does, it takes a tiny narrow sliver out of the middle of red. And that's because there's electrically charged gas or ionized hydrogen, which is emitted by many stars. And it resides in the middle of the red part of the spectrum. So the red is like a little bit wider, like about 100 nanometers wide, between 650 and 750, let's say. And this like really narrow 3.5 or 8 nanometer wide segment is what the filter shows us. And the beauty of that is it blocks a lot of light pollution. So remember, like, we got street lights, mercury vapor, sodium street lights are somewhere in the red and orange. You got like green, blue, that will come from certain types of light bulbs too. You got just generalized light pollution. You got light from the moon, and essentially you're blocking out all of the artificial light pollution, excluding all of it, and you're only showing that little narrow sliver of red. And same thing with blue. So, you know, once again, like if we go back to the graph with the narrow band filters, you'll see that we got O3 right here, this green color. And so you got, you know, blue, green, red, the parts that we can see with normal eyes. And on the edge of blue and green, you have O3, which is ionized oxygen. And when I was using that filter, sometimes even if they have some cloudiness, we can block out the clouds. We can see through the clouds, especially when we're using hydrogen alpha. The problem is that it's now real dark because when you use a narrow band filter, you're excluding a lot of light. So you have to crank up the exposure time. You can't get a picture in a quarter of a second. Now it takes like 4 seconds if you're lucky. But yeah, we're going to go back to taking apart the Game Boy because these clouds are just getting in our way right now. Hey, what up, Lewis? Good to see you, man. I hope all is well, man. You know, I seen the, bunny rabbits and shit. That was really cool on the Instagram. But yeah, so what we're doing today is we're going to go ahead and just replace the busted speaker in this Game Boy Color. And we went to the Retro Game Repair Shop's website, retrogamerepairshop.com. Where's the box? And usually I put this nice little sticker on here. Same company I bought the HDMI, board for the N64 from. And we got the 3-bladed screwdriver, which came with one of the battery replacement sets, which might be of interest to you, Lewis. Yeah, so picked up one of these on Amazon, and it comes with the bolt driver. If you don't have one, I suspect you might already have one. Comes with a couple of size bolt drivers and allows you to crack open the Game Boy cartridges to replace the clock battery on them. Now, of course, I would recommend backing up the clock battery before replacing a battery on an old Pokemon cartridge. Now, this device ran me $50, and it's called the Epilogue GB Pocket Operator. And it's a USB Type-C device that lets you play Game Boy games directly on your PC or Mac. It also lets you back up your game save data, which was like the primary reason I bought it, was so that I could back up the game save data before, removing the battery from the clock chip on the cartridge, or from the, memory, the game save memory. And so, yeah, now this little mat here has little magnets in it. I originally bought it for a soldering job because I needed just like a nice environment to do soldering, and I knew that it was a soldering project that I knew I was gonna like lose components and stuff, so I wanted like neat little slots to put all of the bits and pieces. And yeah, that one was that was an experience, man. Don't modify graphics cards if you don't have to. There were components that, like, I had to order resistors, and normally a resistor is a part that you can hold in your hand and you can look at it and you can see it with the naked eye. But these resistors were tiny rectangular pieces of ceramic that they were, hard as a rock, but you could sneeze on them. You don't even need to sneeze on them. You breathed on them, they fall off your table and you drop them. And I bought like a 10-pack and I lost like 5 of them, like out of the starting gate. And I needed to use like 3 of them for the soldering job. So, to do one graphics card, I nearly ran out of the resistors. Yeah, so we still got the clouds rolling, and the moon's looking a little clearer. So I may just tell the telescope to, change course to the moon for now. So once again, our target reticle is going to go to the moon. And we're going to go ahead and switch to a red filter for now. And we could do, luminance filter. We could do red. And then we're going to have to crank this down a lot. So try 33 milliseconds. See if we're getting the cloud cover there. We'll drop the gain to like nada. Let's see what we can do here. We're going to do multiples of 1. Oh my god, it's a terrible position for my keyboard. Alrighty, let's see. We'll bring that up to 40. Ooh, modern. Alright, yeah. It's not even looking at the moon, is it? Bummer. Alright. Well, what is it looking at? So you picked up a, oh, cool, a Galaxy. Yo, dude, that's a beautiful 3DS. Oh, shoot, man. That's like the purple one or something, right? The Mario Galaxy Nintendo 3DS. So yeah, Lewis was just saying he picked up one of the Mario Galaxy 3DSs, and yeah, that's a fire model right there. I remember I got lucky. I bought a gray 3DS from a coworker, former coworker, and um I was happy. He already modded it for me too, which was nice, or he had it modded for himself. And it's like, so I have, I could copy cartridges directly to it. There's an application called the FBI installer where you get these downloads and homebrew installers, and then they install as icons on the home screen. And like, it was a match made in heaven. I play NES games and all. Now I also did buy a flash cartridge for my Game Boy Micro, which is basically a Game Boy Advanced. And the cool thing about my flash cartridge was it allowed me to play regular Game Boy games and Game Boy Color games on a Game Boy Micro, because originally you couldn't stick the cartridges in. But when it came to playing Gundam, was it Zeta Gundam Hot Scramble for NES or Famicom? That game did not work right on the Game Boy Micro NES emulator at all. Most games work pretty well on there, but that game, it does this like quasi 3D. It's like they almost like they did a hack. The developers of that game did some kind of hack to make it look 3D, and they, it's like you're doing like it's almost like a flight simulator, And Zeta Gundam Hot Scramble is cool because you got some flying, and then you can you go inside the space colony or whatever, and you're doing some like mecha battle, and you got the Wave Rider. You can transform between Zeta Gundam and Wave Rider mode or Core Fighter mode, whatever it is. And yeah, fun game. I mean, really, it gets a little challenging, of course, but as would be the case. And whoops, I wasn't showing you my screen. I gotta remember to hit that button when I want to show people what's on my screen there. So yeah, we're looking at Lunar 1. I gotta watch them space noids out there. Let's see. Oh, okay. Why is this? Why is the color? Oh, I know why. There we go. I had the histogram all stretched like mad. And so we can crank up the exposure time or the gain. And we're looking at the filter moon in the red filter right now. And so what's really cool about the moon in general is when I need to get the focusing right, the moon is an easy object to, focus against. Although, my luck, what usually happens is just as the clouds are like dark, I'll be focusing on the moon and then it'll suddenly get crazy bright and it'll get dark again, and I'll crank up the exposure and it'll get dark, bright, dark, bright. Really could be annoying as hell. I mean, it looks like it's in focus now. I'm really reluctant to like adjust the focuser at all right now. I think I'm just gonna wait for things to abate, and in the meantime, we'll just we'll like let the histogram stretch a little bit, and we'll leave this in the background while we do what we're doing. And I guarantee you it's gonna disappear continually. So put that right there. That's a bad spot. Maybe I should put it in the chroma key. There we go. So it's in the background. Oh, I better close my window before I freeze. I had a lot of heat in here. It got really toasty in here overnight, which is good, but yeah, I had to cool down. All right, so let's get these last two screws out and see what we're facing here, because either this is going to be like a plug and play thing where like you plug in a wire harness and you're good to go. I mean, the new speaker has a wire harness on it, so I'm thinking it might be that simple. But oops, gotta be careful. You're gonna bound to have some things fall out. This one wasn't too bad, but in my case, the power switch fell out, and that's pretty trivial. Like, we just line it up and put it in the position it was in, and we're good to go. I'm not sure if it's upside down or not, but we'll find out. So I'm just double checking the position of this thing here. Alrighty. And okay, good. So that's, let's see how low we can get this camera before it gets, a little difficult. Whoops. Let's see. We're gonna just put this here, put that there, put that like that. See how far right. I have a bottle of 99% isopropyl alcohol out, so I can easily. That's interesting. A little rubber thing fell off my webcam. Okay, well, I'm gonna have to put that back on at some point. All right. So now let's see here. Now this camera is, it's not a USB microscope, but it competes with them really nicely. You got a manual focus adjustment on here, which is really cool. So you can see the Game Boy Color CPU or microprocessor, affects the speeds, the brains of the computer in there. And yep, I knew it. Look at that. So apparently they're selling a speaker with a wire harness on it to replace a speaker that is connected to the motherboard and it needs to be soldered, which, I mean, I was planning to solder anyway. I just got to make sure I have everything ready to go for that. And I should. I have a pretty dope soldering iron. This one here is a knockoff version of a more expensive soldering iron. And it has served me in really good stead. I mean, like, $50 for $300 equivalent. Yes, absolutely. Happy camper there. Alrighty. So now I just need to, I got a Atari computer autographed by the 8-bit guy. Yeah, I went to Retropalooza, the 8-bit guy. Walked into that guy by accident. I was like looking, I was like, oh shit, it's you. Did not expect to see the 8-bit guy, which, I mean, I should have expected to see him because, I mean, it is Retropalooza. I mean, that's what, retro people, where retro computing enthusiasts would be, likely to show up at, amongst other types of nerds. They had some cosplayers there. Let's just go and take a look at the moon in the meantime. What little of the moon we have while I go and I look for some of the odds and ends. So let's see. Here we got this. This is the power brick for the soldering iron. It's one of my favorite things about this soldering iron. Basically, you turn it on. Yeah, there we go. And you use this to control the temperature. And I've never had a temperature controlled soldering iron before, but it is excellent. Now, let's see here. Now it's using like this, looks like an airplane connector, aviation connector. Okay, so we have that. Then we can adjust our temperature. The wire might get in the way a little bit, but that was life. I have a little holder here I keep on the side so I can put it in there. I can clean the soldering iron. And real quick, what you mentioned about UFOs, yeah, so on occasion I've seen stuff, but usually it's a plane flying in front of the moon. What pisses me off is usually like I have the camera running in a loop right now, but I'm not recording. And so if a UFO or something cool like an airplane flew in front of the moon, I would not see it right now. Now what I could do is, I should actually do this anyway. I should put some, stuff in there. And Luna. I'm just gonna put this here. Whoops. No. Yes. Okay, good. So I could record a looping video of this while I'm working on this stuff here. And what I'll usually do is I'll change it to record in AVI format, like a video. And if a UFO does fly in front of the moon, we'll actually see it. But, like that. But you were saying, so you think the GPU is fried on your laptop or desktop? PC, you said PC. Is that a desktop PC? Because I'm curious if it's a desktop or laptop, and what makes you suspect the GPU being at fault? Because it probably could be. I mean, anything's possible. But, sometimes you go through the symptoms, like if you turn on a computer and it, gives you no picture and it's blank, and it beeps a few times, it could be the GPU, it could be the RAM. And sometimes the easiest, most trivial way to, if like, the computer is not given any picture whatsoever, easiest thing to do is to pull the RAM out and put it back in. Reseat the RAM as they call it, which is removing it and putting it back in. And the reason for that is, oh, cool. And reason for that is because the RAM is what is your video memory. If you don't have a video card, your video memory is in your RAM. And if you do have a video card, well, then your RAM still does something, but obviously the video card has its own video RAM. Okay, so that could be the RAM. Not necessarily the RAM is broken, but you might get lucky. You might get real lucky. You might be able to just pop it open, take your RAM modules out, and reinsert them. And whether you have one stick in there or two sticks or four sticks, yeah, do that. And you could even like turn it on with only one memory stick in there, because let's say one of them is faulty, then maybe the others are good. So you can play a game of elimination, take them out, put one back in, until like if they all work, but then one of them doesn't give any picture no matter what you do, then oh, that's the bad memory module. But likely it happens. Like I had a friend at work where his computer had the same exact symptoms, same exact issue. In fact, was it the brand new one or his existing one? Well, basically, he opens the case and he sees that the RAM is not even fully inserted. And sometimes like you'll press down and you hear it go click. And you're like, oh, wasn't in. And other times it'll look like it'll be in, but it still doesn't hurt to take it out and put it back in. But you can always, if I was lazy, I would just push them in first and test it out. And then if that didn't work, I would take them out and put them back in. In dual channel memory mode, you can run with one module or two. So matching pairs in the color coded slots, so you always have the matching pairs in the corresponding, A channel or B channel slot, whatever they, label them. But it can run in single channel mode. And what's funny is a lot of companies will sell brand new computers with dual channel memory support on the motherboard with only an odd number of memory chips in there. Sometimes only one module in there. And it's a very weird and common thing that companies do, which is, it frustrates me. It doesn't really bother me, but it annoys me a bit because, like, I look at it, it's like, it's not my computer, so I don't care. But it's like, I don't know why they do that. I mean, I know why they do it. It's, but like, obviously anyone that's building a computer, they'll put matching pairs in there and then you're good to go. A lot of people won't see a performance loss, but, you're playing games on there, you got a good GPU, and yeah, you're going to benefit from the dual channel. I never understood when people said, oh, people aren't going to notice that it's not running in dual channel mode, and that might work on boomers, like people, who are only doing word processing and nothing more. But otherwise, yeah, a GPU needs that dual channel communication. So yeah, yeah, I don't know why they do that, other than, like I said, boomers and people who, absolutely don't have any need for that, which I think if you're going to buy a desktop computer, you probably do need that. Absolutely. Yeah, it does suck for gaming and streaming. Now, okay, we need to find three things. I got the soldering iron, check. We need some soldering lead. And I think we're going to wing it. I don't have any flux, which actually I should, but I have a way to improvise. In fact, I don't absolutely need flux because, yeah, I have a workaround for that, but I probably should. Oh, cool. I found my missing Geek Squad badge. I gotta actually fix this. I gotta glue a new Geek Squad logo. Alrighty. I said, oh, nice, 9,700K. That's like pretty much what I got, more or less. I mean, I wasn't too picky. I just bought a random MSI motherboard from a old coworker, and it was better than what I had. I had like a AMD FX 8350, and then it was a i9 9900K. But what was the thing? My graphics card. Most people would judge it, and it's like I don't give a shit. Like, I had a 1070 for a long time, and I still do. I put the 1070 in my server, which I could do remote gaming or remote editing. But I was happy with the 1070. I mean, it was a 8 gig 1070, and now I downgraded the video memory. I got a 6 gig 2060, and like I don't find myself using all that video RAM anyway. So the 6 gig was a fine compromise. I bought it because my friend was selling. I need to get my dad a new computer. And my friend had a computer that had a 2060, and I said if I buy that during the graphics card shortage of last year, I could then take the GPU, swap the GPU out, and I did. I swapped the GPU with the stock GPU for that model Dell, and I now have the 2060. And I mean, like a lot of people I know, they're like, oh, I need a new gaming PC. I got to put a fucking what's the shit 3090. I'm like, Jesus, like I mean, good for them. I'm happy for them, but it's like. I mean, some people really do need that, perhaps, but I don't know. I mean, like, like, what are you gaming at 4K and 120 frames a second? It's like, I don't really need anything better right now unless I wanted to game at 120 frames a second. And even then, I played Dirt Rally Racing at 200 hertz at one point just to test out my monitor because my monitor claims it's 200 hertz, but I think it's marketing lies, probably, but it did a good 120 hertz, so I tried the game out at 200. I tried at 120, couldn't see a difference, and my GPU can handle 120 hertz better. But other than that, if I was, if I'm not regularly doing 120 hertz, which I'm not, I actually keep my monitor set to 60 hertz because I really don't like, working the GPU harder for everyday tasks. But that might be nice. It might be nice to have, more. Just don't see the benefit right now. And the other thing, GPUs, like even now, my current GPU pisses me off. It uses up 3 slots. It doesn't need 3 slots. It needs 2 slots because the back of the GPU has extra, a vent up there, and sometimes the HDMI ports were spread out to the neighboring slot. So I understand that, with the cooling unit, the heat sink, where the fans are, that's going to take up 2 slots now. But the 3rd slot, it's like, and the motherboards will disable the 2nd slot automatically when you put a GPU in. But why it blocks my 3rd slot, I don't know. Like it's like it has some LEDs on it, so it's like at some point, if I really need that 3rd slot, I'll have to like modify the GPU. I'll have to remove the LEDs or something, or replace the cooling unit. And I'm not at all. I have no desire to do liquid cooling on a GPU. Like, not looking to do plumbing and shit. But let's see. So your friend gave you the motherboard with GPU, CPU upgrading from a 960 Ti. Nice. So yeah, I mean, like my laptop. In fact, the laptop that my telescope is running on. That has a 950M, I think, a 4 gig 950M. So it's got 4 gigs of video memory and a 950M. And for a while, that's what got me back into PC gaming, playing on that laptop. Because, like, when I got that laptop a few years ago, I was still running, like some 2 gig GPU, ATI GPU on my other machine. And I was like, oh, wow, it's a 4 gig GPU. Really, NVIDIA GPU played a lot of, games that I liked at least, nicely. Space Engineers, for example. But, like, 960 Ti isn't nothing to squawk at. It's pretty good, I mean, I think it's pretty good, But, anything you do, you double the RAM, put a better GPU in there, even, went from an i5 to an i7, that's, the way to go, I don't even know what an i9 is like. I have a feeling the i9 isn't all it's cracked up to be. I don't really know, it's like benchmark-wise, it's like, what was you say, I had a 9700, I think he said. He had an i7 9700K. So let's see. I'm just curious, real quick. Yeah, like no difference. 8 cores, 95 watt power consumption, 3.6 gigahertz turbo boost mode, or I think actually it's the base core. It goes higher than that. Like we can boost up to like 4 or 5, almost 5. Yeah, it gets pretty high up. Like these all have like they have the marketing speed, and then they have like the the turbo. So we both have 3.6, but then mine is constantly reporting like something a little higher than that when it's taxed. Like it'll say 4.6 gigahertz, and supposedly they claim you can do 5. Some people are overclocking it to 5, which I don't recommend, but you know, it says 3.6 in the corner here, but then it says 4.6. So what's happening is they generally wanted to run at this speed to save electricity, but then when, you know, you need that boost when you're running stuff like I'm streaming right now, then it'll run at the higher clock. And so that might be the main difference between these two models, is that boost feature, which of course also heats up the room and, you know, all that shit. Yeah, like we got like a 1%, 2% difference between our two CPUs basically. Like, oh, I can get 3 more frames per second. No, that's not frames, that's points. But like, you know, basically same shit. 9700K has more market share, so I guess there's just more out in the wild. Higher thread count. Okay, so the only difference was the thread count, which isn't always gonna reveal itself. But basically, like when I go to Task Manager, I see more cores because each core is seen as 2 cores, but it's not really the case. It's like, you know, a fiction, so to speak. Wait, that's my laptop. So actually, even the laptop, I think the laptop might be, yeah, that's actually a dual core CPU, but it's showing 4 cores because each core shows up as 2 cores. It's just the way, you know, it's a whole thing. You know, I'm not going to get into the comp sci explanation, but same thing with the 8 core. It looks like 16 cores on here, but that's like, seems to be the only difference. But every other metric, like they're basically the same. Oh, and a turbo boost, yours can go to 4.9, mine can go to 5 gigahertz. So very minor difference. The L2 cache basically is the same. The smart cache, it's a little confusing, but they got, you know, I mean, all these metrics here. I see these 3 criteria. I don't know why they measure 64 core performance. I don't have 64 cores, but they measure it like that too. But, you know, that's what the benchmarks say. Yeah, so broken Alienware laptops, interesting experience to fix. I'd say it could be a hit or miss proposition, but a lot of times people just, you know, don't dust them because, you know, I mean, a powerful laptop has that CPU fan continually running, and you're gonna have, like, you know, a heat sink like in your desktop, except now they're trying to put the same amount of cooling inside a smaller space. And so as the dust builds up, the fan runs harder, and of course it just puts more dust into the, you know, thing, you know, and it's just kind of like a vicious cycle. So, you know, sometimes, like, I had the MacBooks that they had like a lot of design flaws on MacBooks, and in my case, I put the MacBook motherboard in the oven. I'm not saying that should not be a first solution, but that's what I did to fix a couple of MacBooks. I gotta find my soldering lead. Where did I put this shit? Oh, well, I found some soldering lead in here. Oh, wait. There it is. All right, got it. So now the only thing I'm missing is some flux. And I don't absolutely need flux, but it would be nice to have flux, because what flux does is it makes soldering a lot easier, because it lowers the melting point of the soldering lead, and it also makes it so that the soldering lead will stick to the areas where you want it to stick, because without flux, things get weird real fast. Like, the soldering lead just doesn't stick to the places you want it to stick. And so that's like the main reason why, like, people who tell you, you know, do soldering tutorials will say you should have flux. And I think they use flux in welding as well. And this cup here has some flux at the bottom of it. So if I really, oh God, yeah, there we go. So I could probably recycle some of this flux right here that's stuck to the bottom of this sponge here. And it's not really like the wisest way to go, but this stuff here is a different type of flux probably, but I'm gonna keep it available and make use of it probably. Oh man, I'm gonna need to get some double-sided tape for that. Yeah, you know, I fixed my laptop. What's up, pretty man? Yeah, that's pretty cool. Lenovo Flex. I remember it. I vaguely remember that model number. yeah, like I definitely, overclocking, like over the years, I tried it out a couple of times and with mixed results, and sometimes I had better results, but basically, what a friend of mine said when an old coworker, like many years ago, my friend Vlad, he basically was saying, look, you might be able to keep the temperature down, and on it, because I was overclocking a graphics card at one time, and he was like, you'll be able to keep the temperatures down, perhaps, because I was saying, well, like, what if I could, I could definitely keep it cool. I was describing, like, I could put a lot of airflow, I could do this, I could do that, and he's saying, look, you can keep it cool, but you're putting more current, more voltage, more amperage, more electrical current into the same narrow, microcircuits. And that was like the fundamental thing that would cause, premature breakdown of a GPU. So that's what had me rethinking it. And I said, yeah, okay, I was getting a marginal increase in performance. Had to spend a lot of time, trial and error getting the frequencies right. And for this marginal improvement and occasional glitches and occasional blue screens of death. So it's like, yeah, and between that and wearing out the hardware. Now, some people say, oh, well, they're going to replace the computer by the time it breaks down. Well, that's cool if that's what they want to do. I bought two MSI motherboards that were made for overclocking, but they basically said if you don't overclock it, this board will last you 40 years. And if you do overclock it, it'll last you 8 or 10 years. So I was like, okay, cool. I won't overclock it. It's nice to know I'll have parts that'll last me 40 years if I so need it. Hey, what's up, Brandon, Looney Tunes fan 2000? It is good to see you, my friend. I hope all is well. And yeah, I gotta check out some of your updated content. I know you've been putting out new content, and I like that World War II propaganda, American propaganda piece that you showed, from World War II. It's basically like a Disney film, or not Disney, it was a Warner Brothers film, I believe, against the the guys who ran Germany during World War II. Yeah, that. And we'll put this up on while I'm looking for this. CD player, anyone? I got an MP3 CD player. You got like what, 1,260? You have a lot. Now you got like over 1,000. You're right. You made 1,000 a couple weeks ago. 1,000 subscribers. Brandon made 1,000 subscribers, and I think he's at, like, last I checked, I think it was like 1,260. But man, he got the YouTube algorithm sort of figured out. I think. I mean, or at least like a lot of us who have small content channels. I'm pretty casual in my YouTube content creation, and as far as subscriber count goes, Brandon is blowing us away. He's blowing a lot of us away. It's pretty cool. But other people work harder than I do, and it shows. Like Pacific 414, he got pretty good subscriber growth compared to me because he actually works at it. Alrighty. Okay, so what I'm looking for is not in there. I think we're gonna just get to the show. I'm gonna try checking one more place, and then I'm gonna go ahead and improvise. I got a Victory Gundam here in a box here, Lewis. It's good. It's really easy to put together. It's one of the basic models. So I also have part of a GM custom in there, but this one was easy to assemble. But when you pose it, if you bump into it, it falls apart easily. I painted part of it actually, but I think, what did I use? Acrylic paint, I think. And I picked up some enamel paint. I was practicing enamel on some 3D prints. I got this Zaku. I'm going to wait a little while to put it together so I can do it right. But yeah, enamel paint was really, really cool because you put it on a Gundam model and it goes on like even and smooth and all that, right? If you do it right. But I made a mistake when I did the Grandpa Gundam. Because a while ago, Lewis was saying, if you're still there, you were telling me that I should do a Grandpa Gundam, right? So I did, do it. But as I was painting it, I screwed up one big area. I was using Zippo lighter fluid to, thin my paint or to clean off the paint. So if I made a mistake, I would use Zippo fluid to clean off the excess paint. And that was a humongous mistake because apparently Zippo lighter fluid messes up the plastics on the Gunpla, the type of plastic they use. And so basically, a friend of mine warned me while I was in the middle of bragging about using Zippo fluid. And right after he told me about it, I started noticing a crack form. I was like, oh, shoot, he's right. And, I started buying the right stuff, and now it's fine. But of course, I either have to get a second one, or I might use a shield from a gym, you know, a GM, a mass production mobile suit. I might just use that to replace the RX 78-2's shield. Yo, mini disc players were fire at the time. Those were pretty neat. All right, so we're gonna wing it here because my problem is that I don't have the flux, but I have, you know, improvised product here. I can use this crap here. So it looks like amber, and we're gonna use that. So now the way I do this is I have this control unit here, and what we do is we oh, and I have this busted Game Boy Pocket I have to look into, but we basically you know, just dial in the temperature we want, and it has been pretty cool. Now I bought 2 of these because what happens is when you put it on at 5, it gets like 450 degrees. I think it's in Celsius. I'm not sure if it's Fahrenheit. But because of that, if you left it on that temperature too long, it would burn out the temperature sensor in the, you know, in the soldering iron. It wouldn't work anymore. So I, you know, learned that. So now what I do is when I'm running it and I'm putting it down for like 5 minutes at a time, I, you know, just kind of lower the temperature, and then I'll put the temperature back up when I'm ready to use it again. This one's cool because it uses the high-end accessory. So this originally came with a soldering tip that was a little shorter. A couple of them, actually. But then I found out you could buy the ones for the $300 unit. Has slightly longer tips, but also probably made to a higher standard. And I found that those accessories fit inside of this guy here. So they're a little bit looser fitting. So sometimes you get the error on here if you know, if it falls out. So I just, you know, made sure it's in there. And now we're back on. And it's at maximum, yeah, it's at maximum temperature. So it's going to warm up. And then we can hit the flux up, or we can, you know, use the cleaning material here to kind of, you know, give it a scrub-a-dub-dub. Say it's about as clean as we need it to be. Oh, shit. I just remembered something. Okay, this will just take a moment. I have to figure out how to fit this funnel in here because I have a fume extractor. Don't want to breathe this stuff in if I can avoid it, you know? So what I usually do is I have this thing here. Hey Google, volume 8. So this here just sucks away the smoke, so that if you get some smoke here, it goes right into this thing. You can see it goes right in. So it makes it so that I don't have to worry about getting sick. Oh, wait. We're going to use some 99% isopropyl alcohol to clean the board because there's some dust on here. There might have been some, like, you know, beverage in here from the previous owner before I owned it. But this was given to me by a friend many years ago. In fact, he bought it. He gave it to me like a few years after he got it for his bar mitzvah. So it was in pretty good condition, except the speakers seemed to be kind of sketchy on it. So, you know, we're going to just give it a gentle scrubbing. Sometimes I use a brush, But right now, I'm just gonna wipe it by hand. In fact, well, we could use a brush if we want. .99% isopropyl alcohol evaporates pretty easily, and it doesn't contain really any water to cause any corrosion, so you could pour it directly on the electronics if you wanted to. I wouldn't necessarily do that, but you totally could. And on this one here, I see some like brown stuff here, and that's probably flux from the factory, but it's also conceivable that something got spilled on it, like soda or another beverage. So we're gonna go ahead and clean that off, since it's not necessary anyway for the operation of this device. Just gotta put a little tape on my camera holder. Oh yeah, I think this thing took some liquid damage, because I see some like evidence of corrosion on the headphone jack. And I don't think I've ever had problems with the headphone jack, but that would explain, you know, why that general area is a little sketchy. Well, it's probably about as clean as we're gonna need it to be. Now, it's also possible that my audio issues are related to this part here. Now, what we're looking at here is that chip, or that board, that daughter board, as I would call it. So this daughter board here, I think that's actually the audio circuitry. I think they even sell upgrade replacements for that. And I'm actually needing to put this under the scope, because I see this blue stuff. It might be adhesive, it might be Loctite. It looked green at first, so I was worried if that was evidence of corrosion. But I think we're okay. It's just like I said, I saw that little bit of a soda stain here. That might have just been flux from the factory or something. We have the green corrosion on these contacts. That's the stuff that I'm most concerned about, but I'm not going to really do anything about it. You know, I'm going to just replace this with the speaker, see what happens. And so before we pop in the new speaker, let's take a look at the one we have here as our replacement, because these are not color coded. So I'm pretty sure red is positive. But we're gonna have to look that up real quick because we don't want to mix that up now. And so there's an iFixit guide, but I mean I don't need the whole guide. What I just need is to see where they're plugging in the wires. So we have some wires here, okay, you know. It doesn't tell me anything here. No, it doesn't tell me not anything. Like, how is this a guide for doing the speaker? Like, okay, I know where to find the speaker, but like, it's not telling me like, positive and negative. I want to know. Of course, there's a difference between the red and white wire. So tell me where they go. Thanks, dudes. Thanks for what? If you're talking about the speaker, then no. No, speakers don't care about the polarity. I don't believe that. Yeah, I don't know why these assholes are saying that polarity doesn't matter. It kind of does. Oh, okay. So because it's not in stereo, it shouldn't matter. Yeah, so apparently the color of the wire doesn't matter in this case, but it still surprises me because I would have thought, I would have thought polarity would be, of concern. Well, we're going to just do one more keyword search. We're going to do polarity. And, you know, yeah, I don't think there's any difference here. Oh, good. The picture says that the top one is the positive terminal. So I don't really care if the people on the internet think it doesn't matter. I mean, like, I want to know which one is the correct one, and we now know. And if you don't know, now you know. Radio edit. Alrighty. So here we go. Here goes nothing. Top one is positive. Switching to desk camera. How's our focus? I didn't listen to my own advice. I had this thing on maximum temperature the whole time. Don't want to breathe that shit in. That's terrible stuff to breathe. Okay, that came out pretty easy. Now, in the absence of a wire cutter, I'm just going to use an X-Acto knife. Oh, wait, I do have a wire cutter. I don't think this is going to be the right type, but I'll give it a try. Okay, we used the scissor to cut off the wire harness, and now we're just gonna remove the tip, then we're gonna tin these. Oh wow, that worked nice. I don't know if I got that on camera, but we're gonna put the little wire in between, you know, gonna get a nice in the focus shot. We put the little wire in between like this. Alright, it worked the first time. There it is. If you saw it that time, it was like real straightforward. Like, it cut it and strip it. It stripped the sheathing off the wires. So now, I have a tip cleaning container here. I'm going to put the soldering iron inside of that. And that basically gives us a nice shiny tip on the soldering iron. So what I'm doing is I'm dipping this in a, you know, in tip tinner, and that's actually kind of like not proper, but it works. And what I do is I swipe it on the end of the wire, and it puts a coating of, like, you know, reflective metal on there. And this helps me for two reasons. It allows the you know, the wire, the individual strands to stick together, because it's almost like, you know, a bunch of tiny pieces of metal. And then it makes it easy to shove it into the little hole that we're trying to shove it into. Oh god, I almost melted something. So we're going to put it in the second hole. This one's a little trickier. At that point, it's already in. I see the wire sticking out the other side, but for good measure, I'm going to just add a tiny bit of soldering lead to it. To, you know, ensure that that thing is good in there, you know? So we're just going to, you know, just gently. So that gives us a little bit more of a solid electrical connection than we would have had before. Then I'm going to lower the temperature on my soldering iron so that I don't accidentally burn out the, you know, unit. And just real quick, if we go back to the moon, you see it's in a pretty good spot. It does drift a little diagonally because I got to redo my polar alignment, and I'm not, you know, trying to do that in this weather right now. In fact, it's a work night, so I'm not trying to do it at all tonight. But even like when I didn't have work, I was like, okay, well, it's a little cold out. Now, we got to dial in the focuser, and this is where things get a little weird because, you know, we look like we're roughly in focus, but we're going to do a couple of things here. Okay, we're in the red filter. In fact, we're going to focus on blue because I want to get that comet in blue since I already did. Well, let me think here, actually. That's blue. That's red. And it doesn't look red, but we, you know, these are, well, monochrome imaging, we call it. So, anyway. We're backing out the focuser a bit. We're doing that on purpose so that we can bring it back in. Now, there's a bit of atmospheric turbulence, so we're still going to see this happening, and we can, you know, sort of like get a good feel for that by looking at two weather forecast maps, or even these actually pretty much up to date at this point. They're not forecast, it's current and past weather. So these are the visible clouds that were affecting me earlier, and that are probably still kind of, you know, in the vicinity. And this, you know, goes forward, it plays back like in a loop. So if I hit stop, I go, yeah, this is pretty much as recent as I got. And then this one here is cool because sometimes the forecast was saying clear skies. It would say like, oh yeah, it'll be a clear night, or maybe just slightly cloudy, and I'll get ready. If the, you know, weather forecast says it's going to be clear, I'll be excited. I'll have my telescope ready, and then I'll be seeing like haziness. I'll be seeing, you know, something like worse than what we're seeing here right now, and it'll make it impossible to image a galaxy or a nebula. And then I'll discover that in the high altitude map, it's like there's like ice crystals, there's like fog, there's haze at the higher altitudes, and even though they don't count as clouds at the low altitude, they still have an adverse effect on our nighttime seeing conditions. So anyway, now we're going to go back to our friend the comet, which should be right over here. Yep, that's the comet. I'm going to aim at the comet. And so once again, I must do what I call plate solving, where I take a short, you know, a few pictures, and then I have this program compare it to a star map. Oh, and the software is yelling at me because I gotta go and put it into 16-bit color mode. So we got the speaker in there. I have no idea if it fixed the problem because there could still be another cause to the problem I was having, but at least we have the speaker in the Game Boy now. And we're gonna just go zoom out a little bit. Then I'm gonna go and stretch the histogram a little bit, and in about 10 seconds I should have the first picture. So in the meantime, I could technically test this out without putting it back together, but I'm adventurous, so I'm gonna put it back together. We did a little bit of cleaning. If this doesn't fix the problem in the Game Boy, it might be this circuitry here. I'll explore it further, but I wasn't even aware of any kind of liquid damage. So, that goes a long way in, like, understanding what could be wrong with this thing. Now, if I'm really adventurous, I can also investigate the screen, but it looks like the screen is in there. Like, I don't even know how you take the screen out, so I'm not going to try right now, but it looks like it's okay, gotta be careful. It's probably either held in place by this adhesive foam, or it might literally be glued in there. And if it's glued in there, then it's going to require the application of heat to remove the screen. So I'm going to save that for another day, but at least I know that I can do the screen when I'm ready. Because I have a new screen protector, which, I mean, realistically, you can use brake cleaner. You don't necessarily need to, replace the screen protector, but, brake cleaner will essentially, melt the plastic and allow you to kind of, like, get rid of scratches. Now, I probably could have paid better attention to, like, the position of the wire, but I don't think it's a big deal as long as I don't, like, bend it to the point that it falls out. I just need to bend the wire to the point that it stays in the position it needs to be in. We, of course, need to plug this flex cable back in. And so we're going to go ahead and just make sure the mechanism is unlocked. Okay, there we go. It's in. Oh, God. Yeah, I'm good here. A while ago, I had a device where I ripped the ribbon cable in half, but that was a long time ago. Okay, good. So the flex cable is in there. Now we're going to just rotate the speaker. There's a young man. I forgot his name. I subscribe to him, but he does this stuff on the regular. I want to check out his content just because, it seems cool. Seemed like a nice dude. Seen him on my friend Brian's channel, the Nerdporeal Life Form. It's like Nerdporeal. It's sort of like a play on words. You got, non-corporeal life forms. He's the Nerdporeal life form, And, I have a saying, he's like, stay Nerdporeal, Am I going to have to go back to the tape to see which way I rotated this? There we go. Okay. Just going to drop it in. Easy does it. And then we're just going to put those screws back in where they were before. And it was really trivial. It's like 3 screws. They're all using the same type of screws. So that part isn't really a big issue. We're going to turn off the soldering iron. Oh, and always be careful because I always have to remember this. I might have already put one of the screws in a place where I shouldn't put it because remember, you got internal screws that hold the motherboard in, like the ones I'm putting in right now, and you have external screws. So basically, if I put a screw into a slot that belongs to an external screw, that's going to, interfere when I put it back together. I'm not going to be able to put in one of the screws because there's going to be a blockage. So now, I think that we can just double check. We can take the chassis, the enclosure, and line it up, and we can say, okay, where's their screw in? So we're good here. We're good here. And I think one goes here. Yeah, so actually there's only 3 screws for the motherboard, and they're pretty easy to find. And then the rest of the holes are actually for exterior screws. So, you know, don't don't fucking yeah, there we go. So we don't have to worry about that. Yep. And so yeah, this is what I was talking about. The USB cable with the DC jack allows us to power this up without reassembling it, which I'm just gonna wing it. But if I was doing a major repair on a screen or something, I would probably do that. And then for the Game Boy Pocket that I recently obtained, that I intentionally bought a broken Game Boy Pocket for repair, I'm gonna go and just open it, test it out, see if it's simple like a wire or something, and then if it still isn't fixed after that, then I'll go and order a new screen for it because it's wonderful. They sell IPS, black and white IPS screens, of course, but they sell IPS screens for these devices now. Okay, so I gotta do two things. One, plate solving. So we've already, aimed the telescope at the comet, but we need to, tell the software that. Wait, that's not it. Hmm. Oh, I see what I did here. I feel like something is missing here because these timestamps do not look right. But we're gonna just let it take the next picture and then we'll, aim at the new target. Oh, shoot. That's the problem. Okay, let's do that one more time. It was taking pictures in the wrong format. Okay, so now we're using the right format. In the meantime, I'm just putting the screws back in our Game Boy Color. So, not really much to see here. 3-bladed screwdriver. Whereas over here, there we go. So what this application is doing is it's going to take a look at the picture we just took, and just so you know what we're looking at, that, and it's going to take a look at those stars, and it's going to compare the positions of those stars to a star map, and then it's going to determine what I'm actually looking at, because in all likelihood I need to clean up and tune up my mount so it's not aiming at what it should be aiming at. And so as we look here, I'm continuing to put the remaining screws into my color Game Boy. And then I have a game I could put in. Let's make sure it's the right game. Yep, regular Pokemon Red. I have two Pokemon Reds. One of them is really busted. And I always like to unplug this. So essentially, if I leave this plugged in and I accidentally turn it on, I flip open the power switch, it'll give an error message because this could easily be flipped on, but see, nothing happens. If I accidentally turn on the soldering iron power pack and the soldering iron was plugged into it, this thing gets hot. And what if I'm not home when it's on? That could be a disaster. Now, I believe when this thing overheats or malfunctions, it will have a fail safe. But, I'm not one to depend on that sort of thing. Now, I said I was going to put Pokemon Red in here, but I changed my mind. We're going to put Mario Brothers DX because this game is fire. Yeah, that's Mario Brothers Deluxe. I need to get another copy of Zelda DX. I had that years ago. That was my shit when I was, when I was first playing this. Okay, so our volume control is at medium. Okay, I'm maxing. Oh, that was nice. Okay, I might have to turn on noise suppression for that, but I'm gonna go into my settings and I'm gonna turn off all of my filters. Okay, filters off. I'm gonna put this near the microphone. Did you hear that? So anyway, I'm gonna just put this over here. Alrighty, now we're gonna turn the filters back on. So basically, I have these audio filters. I have no idea how good the sound is for that, but I know when my filters are off, my sound is a bit low. So I could do that. We're gonna pick up more background noise, but you know what? We'll try it out. More background noise. I bought an external light. But yeah, I mean, that was really, really trivial. Yeah, so I mean, I'm on the fence here. You can buy a color screen, a IPS screen, just like a phone. You know, it's like a backlit color screen. I tried buying like a snake light, you know, where you plug it into the port, but the product was wrong. It advertised the Game Boy Color, but it was really for the Game Boy Advance, so it doesn't fit. And I don't need a little light for a Game Boy Advance. My Game Boy Advance SP has a LED, you know, LCD on it, you know. But yeah, I'm hearing the music. I've never had this thing sound so good. Now, still isn't really good for playing on the bus ride home, but I'm really on the fence about replacing the, oh god. I'm really on the fence about replacing the LCD on here because it's a stock LCD, right? It's a stock unit in good working order. And if I upgrade the screen on here, sure, I'll be able to play it in the dark, but it'll use up more battery power. And more importantly, it won't be the same vintage hardware that it is now. You know, I mean, right now, this is like, you know, in its original form, it's, in my opinion, a piece of history. This is like what we had in 1999 or 2001. You know, especially me, because I didn't get the Game Boy Advance right away. But, like, actually, I think I did. I got a Game Boy Advance pretty early. I think it got lost, stolen, or I sold it. But, I might have sold it. But, you know, this here, OG hardware. Now, they also sell bigger screens for them too, which is kind of cool. But since I have the broken Game Boy Pocket, I'm more likely to, you know, I'm definitely, well, if I can't fix the built-in screen, then yeah, I might as well upgrade the screen anyway. And even if I stick with a black and white, you know, screen, I would love to have a backlit dot matrix screen. I don't like that they're selling IPS displays for these. But yeah, you know, and you can see like they're basically the same. I think there's a mod where you can basically put AAA batteries in here and replace the chassis, replace the housing to make the Game Boy Color a little slimmer. But I suspect because of the, you know, color screen and all of that, maybe it uses up a bit more power, and that's why they made it, you know, run on AA batteries, or maybe these just run out of power quicker. Now, certainly, this was more efficient than an original Game Boy, which is why you could run it on AAA batteries. But bottom line, mission accomplished. And I better put on my volume filter now. Yeah, so these prevent it from getting too loud or too low, or while blocking out background noise or excluding it. But mission complete, mission accomplished, as they would say in Star Fox 64. So at this point, this concludes this, and I may do a edited version of this so that I can, you know, share the result, you know, share the you know, just share the process, because I mean, obviously you don't need to watch a 2-hour stream to see how to replace the battery. A, you know, 2 to 5 minute video would probably be sufficient. And so before I run some errands, before I have to get up and run some errands, I'm gonna just go ahead and check on the astronomical stuff here. I gotta be up at work for work at 5 a.m. tomorrow. What a bummer. All right, and I mean I'm hungry. If you forgive my eating food on stream. Almost forgot. You gotta hit here. So what we got going on here, this number is a little different than this number. This is where the telescope is pointing, or where the telescope thinks it's pointing. This will now update those numbers. And when I do that, you're also going to see this target reticle. What the hell? Oh, I must. That. Well, that seems a little off, doesn't it? We're going to click yes. And it updated the position of the target reticle. But I want to look at the comet. So I'm going to tell it aim at the comet. Then we're going to take a new picture. And we're going to tell this application to look at the new picture. To, they call it plate solving. Because back in the old days, they would literally take pictures on glass plates or photo plates. And then you compare them to another image. And you essentially figure out if you're looking at the object you think you're looking at. And so basically, it's going to double check the coordinates. Because right now, what the, excuse me. So here's my problem. I told it to aim at the comet. I've never seen this happen before, but when I say aim at the comet, it's pointing at something else. What? Okay, maybe it's a bug. What the hell is going on here? We're gonna try something else out. We're gonna park the telescope. That's gonna bring it back to the home position. Then we're gonna tell it to go back to what we were just looking at. Okay, so we brought it home to the parked position. When it's done parking, we're going to tell it to unpark it. So right now it claims it's still parking it. All right, it is now parked. We're going to unpark the telescope. We're going to go back to Stellarium. We're going to tell it to go to the target. And it's going to go through the equatorial grid because really that's the grid that matters. You can see like it's following these circles. So this green grid is the imaginary dome that's over our heads. This blue grid is the grid that represents, like polar alignment, where like Polaris is over here. It's not actually dead center, it's a little bit off center. And as the night progresses, as the sun rises and sun sets, everything moves like that. And we rely on that motion in order to perform polar alignment. And so, of course, these objects are what the fudge? We're going to put it right there. I'm going to take another picture. I'm going to tell the software to polar align, not polar align, plate solve against this picture. Okay, now I think we're good, like ish, but I'm still, kind of confused why that issue is happening. But I'm gonna deal with it. I'm gonna just, I'm gonna cope with it. So we're gonna take a new picture, same exposure time. So we're gonna do a 15-second exposure at ISO 1700, and we're going to rely on that. Okay, so I'll explain the issue I was having in 1 second. I just want to get this. Okay, good. So basically, here's my problem. So normally you aim at a target, but usually due to mechanical imperfections in the mechanisms, it's not going to land on the target you want. It might be like over here instead of over here. So we take a picture, we use the constellations. The software will then usually take the target reticle and move it to where it really is. So even though it thinks it's over here, it'll do the alignment, it'll do plate solving, it'll realize, oh no, I'm really pointing over here. And then, excuse me, once I do that, I can manually say, okay, good, go back. I don't have to manually do it. I just say point here, okay, and it will point at the target. And this time, since I, did plate solving to recenter it, to, basically get its coordinates right. And this time, yeah, it actually landed on the target, but only because I manually aimed it at the target myself. And what's frustrating is that before I was telling it, aim here. And for some reason, this target reticle would keep going here. And it wasn't like, it looked like it was doing it on purpose. And, I'm not aware of any reason why it would do that unless, nah, it wasn't because of the atmosphere. Well, anyway, we have it on target now. And so when we do this, that's a comet. And then we have one more thing to do because comets move against the grain of the sky, right? So we have this auto guiding application, PhD2. And what this application will do is it'll allow us to lock onto the comet, even though it's not normally the way you should do it, but this is a way to do it. And I don't need it to be absolutely perfect, but hopefully it'll be good enough. Whoops. Ah, shit. Wait. Okay. I think the star was so jumpy, it thought that the scope... That's funny. That's funny. This program thinks that the telescope is moving. And it's like, no, the telescope's not moving. This is working correctly. The only problem is the atmospheric turbulence is gonna it's gonna throw it off a lot. Like, in fact, I've never had this problem before. It worked yesterday, so it doesn't want to work now. Because I tell you what, you know what doesn't work? Comet tracking. I tried it, did not work. I mean, not that it didn't work. It's that it counts on other things to be set up perfectly. So now I have a little conundrum because I didn't have this problem yesterday. No, what the hell? That did not happen yesterday. Maybe if I trick it into lunar tracking. See, what's happening is the comet is moving so much against the grain that it is thinking that I'm aiming the telescope at shit, and I'm not. So how do I comet tracking scope slewing PhD 2? I'm gonna Google this because yeah, that's insanity. Because yesterday I'm pretty sure I was able to do this like without any problem. It's like I'm well aware that the comet is gonna move, but I need to be locked onto the comet. This is horse shit. And like, yeah, I can go into the settings and tell the program to do it automatically, like without using the camera guiding, but I'm really not trying to do that because I don't trust my polar alignment right now, and I'm not gonna go out and touch metal parts in 20-degree, lower than 20-degree weather right now. Not happening. Okay, 288 millimeter. See, there should be a calculator that does this, right? But man, what a pain in my ass. So yeah, basically, hey, what's up, Tron? It's good to see you, bud. We got the legendary Tron in the chat right here, and he does a streaming channel. He's got a streaming channel here and on Twitch. And so, if anybody else is tuned in right now, which I can check the stats, I do recommend checking out the legendary Tron. got a link right here. I'll put a link here to his YouTube content. And anybody who's interested in finding him on Twitch, I suspect there's a link on his channel. But if not, you can definitely find him on Twitch under the Legendary Tron. He is a hazard, a danger to anybody who finds him, who walks into him in Fortnite. Or so I've heard. Nah, he is pretty brutal, actually. I seen Tron. I seen Tron in action in Fortnite. Yeah, he's dangerous. He'll eat people for dinner in Fortnite. Yeah, so this is crazy. This was not happening yesterday. Why is it that it happens now? I got things to do and shit, and it's like I want to be able to walk away from my computer while it's doing this, you know? I want to be able to walk away from my computer while it is doing this without having to worry. So, okay, so what we're doing is I'm just manually moving the point of light towards the center. Okay, that should be good enough. And then I'm going to switch back to long exposures, like we'll do 15 seconds for now. And we're still running the temperature unit at low temperatures. And then I gotta figure out why the heck this application is being a wanker. Like, maybe it was like the weather was so bad yesterday that it had no problem tracking a comet. It's also possible I was accidentally tracking something other than the comet, but I'm pretty sure I wasn't. Oh, maybe I gotta do that. So if I enable comet tracking and then I lock onto the comet, maybe it'll work. No, apparently not. That's weird. Why is that shit moving around so fast? Yeah, this is yeah, that is interesting because I'm not trying to do the mathematics right now for all of that. Oh, that's cool. That's cool. There's a way to control this over the network. Maybe if I tell it to don't show again, it'll keep tracking the target. Oh, I know what's happening here. So yesterday the comet was in a different position. So this program is thinking, oh, it's a little minor thing or whatever. But today, the comet is moving so much faster. That must be what's happening there. So if I do like auto guiding on any normal star, it'll keep the camera centered. But this comet is moving too fast for its taste. And so I gotta see if I can find a way to like force it to go quicker or something like that. HB2 comet nucleus slewing. Okay, so we're in X3 right ascension rate. We're gonna do something cool. We're gonna double the setting, and then we're gonna tell it to calibrate against a normal star. Might have a cable snag on here. Alrighty, so I'm about to hit the road. I think I'm gonna end the stream, but I thought about leaving the stream running because sometimes these can be fun to watch. Well, not really that much fun, but kind of fun to watch when. Oh, I know what I did wrong this time. I think. Okay, so we refresh the camera, then we tell it to guide. This time it should guide properly. So basically, if the thing drifts west, it'll go the other direction, etc. Right? And you can see this thing is doing its thing. It moves a little bit, and this graph is going insane. That graph is going insane. What the F is going on? Okay, I gotta redo my polar alignment. I think that's what's happening here. I'm almost certain I have to redo my polar alignment. It can't be any other explanation because this thing is drifting like a mofo. That's insane. Like, it is not liking what we're doing right now. This thing is like, it is not a happy camper. And yeah, I'm speechless, but it's saying reverse deck output option. Okay, if you've done a meridian flip, check to see if reverse deck option is in advanced tabs. Cable snags, blah blah blah. Redo your calibration. Okay, so if it's a cable snag, let's see here. So advanced, and we got like a reverse. Deck output option. It's almost like there's a setting there that I thought was already enabled. So let's pick a different star. Oh God. All right, whatever. It's gonna do. I think it's doing calibration. Whatever. I'm gonna have to remotely log in. So anyway, I want to thank everyone for tuning in tonight. And I do humbly request you consider checking out my friend, the legendary Tron. There we go. I had to put the fume extractor away. And beyond that, we did a Game Boy Color change earlier in the stream. So anybody who's filing late or who didn't see the whole stream or is watching the end of the stream during a replay, which would be kind of odd on a replay. Yeah, we changed the speaker on a Game Boy Color and it was successful. I tested it with Mario Brothers Deluxe, and at some point I have to replace the screen shield on the Game Boy Color. And I gotta put this battery in my Game Boy Micro, which I will probably do on my own time. It's just a battery. I mean, how hard could that be? And yeah, that basically concludes this. Beyond that, I ran into a little bit of an issue with my telescope, and I'm gonna just kind of wing it and hope that something fixes it, because at first I thought it was just because I'm tracking a comet, but then it did a couple of other unusual things that are highly uncharacteristic of my rig. So it looks like it's more than just the fact that I'm doing something unusual. It's funny because I had it running last night. Anyway, I gotta go. My phone's ringing. I want to thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. If you have any questions, comments, or ideas, please leave a comment. And for now, we shall end transmission, or at least when I find a button to end transmission. Oh, and real quick, screw the phone call. Star did not move enough. Okay, let's see what's going on here. So I'm gonna go back into the settings and let's say that. I'm gonna say this, and we're gonna let it recalibrate. Yeah, bottom line, the recalibration is failing. I bet maybe a wire got snagged on the scope, so I'm gonna have to take a close look at the puppy. But this is a little annoyingly concerning. But once again, thank you for watching, and I'm really gonna end this stream now.